Welcome to the Keto Geek Podcast. Let's do this.
Health, nutrition, fitness, low-carb lifestyle.
One thing I really miss is mangoes. What is the fruit that you like?
I'm really missing out on bananas.
Man, bananas are awesome. And you know what's really interesting about bananas? You can't really eat more than 3 of those suckers.
No, they're really filling. Like, they have a fibrous, like, really thick feel to them.
And I think bananas are in trouble, aren't they? Someone was talking about it on Twitter.
I've heard about years back, though, like the species is no longer doing well because our planet can't support that species of plant anymore.
Yeah, but you know what's really fascinating is there's a bunch of people who eat primarily fruit-based diets. And that is just so awesome and so paradoxical at the same time.
Yeah, it's like as if they're breatharians almost.
Yeah, and I reached out to our guest today, whose name is Michael Arnstein, and he does ultra marathon running, and he's on a primarily fruit-based diet, which is totally crazy. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that someone could even potentially do that, and it raises so many questions, like, what about protein? What about all these amino acids? And what about all this sugar?
Seems like he just runs away from it all.
Somehow he's managing to run away from it, no puns intended. But he was a really cool guy that I had a conversation with. So before we get into the podcast, we have a few awesome things to talk about, though. Like, first of all, Low Carb USA was amazing. I got to meet the coolest people ever, all the way from guys and gals from Keto Gains, Dr. Finney and Dr. Volek from Averta Health, lots of new different companies. The Fat Emperor was there, Ivor Cummins, Dr. Gerber was there, Amber O'Hearn was there, heck, even Dr. Baker was there.
Yeah, I saw the photo of you and Baker next to each other, and I was like, that is a man?
Yeah, he was holding our jar of ghee, and it looked like a tiny golf ball in his hands.
God, that was hilarious.
I was expecting him to be 25 foot. He's actually 30 feet tall. And Zach Bitter, too. He was there, too.
I heard that you took on Luis of Keto Gains in a pull-up challenge.
Yes, Luis, if you're hearing this, I won. But I did not kip any one of them. So I think I won. And you know what? I would have gotten 25 pull-ups there. But they docked away 4 of mine because my hand wasn't fully extended when I was at the negative bottom. So, hey, but the second guy who was on there, he was kipping on the last few ones. Ooh. Just want to point it out, man. Well, it was a cool, fun thing. And I think the people from Keto Gains are really awesome people. I got to have dinner with them. And Doug and Pam from Low Carb USA, amazing people. Some of the latest cancer researchers and doctors and physicians, including Dr. Nisha Winters and so forth. Really amazing crew. So it was really like going to your family and checking them out and having a conversation. I would highly recommend checking out Low Carb USA next year in San Diego. You'll have a lot of fun. In fact, on any of these keto cons or any of these conferences or Keto Fest are an absolute blast, especially since if you're new to the diet and you want to meet the community. Oh, and Dave Feldman, the magician, was there too. So if I have missed out on your name, I'm sorry. You guys all are part of my family, really love you and respect you. So thank you for putting up with this event. And moving onward, at the event, we had this new flavor called Salted Mocha.
Yeah.
And it was the bomb, by the way. It is, for those who are newly listening to this show, so the Salted Mocha is basically a modification of the coffee protein energy pod, which is high in fat and protein. Mm-hmm. And the guys and gals from Keto Gains, Luis and Tyler, were like, okay, you guys have done something really good over here. And even they gave us a bit of a thumbs up on the product. So this product was a total hit. Anybody who's tried it out as a drink, they loved it.
I remember when we first made it and we were just having our minds blown by how delicious it was.
Delicious, and there's so much protein. It is by far the most ambitious product we've ever made because it has egg protein, it has vanilla beans, it has MCT oil, it has ghee in it. It has the best cocoa you can find ever all of these combined ingredients. And when we were looking at the suppliers and talking about pricing, I was like, okay, this is by far the most expensive product we've ever created. So, but it will be hopefully out very, very soon. It's going to take its time. Right now, we're in the process of scaling up our business, which is totally insane. And speaking of scaling up, you guys are crazy. Tell them about Amazon, man.
Yeah. So here, Fahad and I thought it would be an awesome idea to go crazy and do a really high volume production, send 100 and 150 boxes over to Amazon. Like, oh yeah, that should hold them over. The first day,
Oh, yeah.
we are pretty much sold out. What is going on?
Hang on a second. We got sold out before we even went in stock.
Yeah, you're right about that. The pre-orders got just demolished.
The day we got in stock, within a few hours, out of stock.
Yeah.
That's how crazy you people are. We really love you guys and appreciate your this whole journey with all of you people who've purchased our product and supported this podcast. It means a lot. So keep us on our toes. It's kind of awesome. And hopefully it's helping you in your journey. Combine that with the high protein meal. That's how we kind of eat it. So it's
Yeah.
but yeah, another concern that some of the people had, especially with summer coming right around the corner, was that people were saying that your pods are melting. Just to address that real quickly, if you find your pod has melted or separated a little bit, just take the spoon that comes with it and mix it in. And the reason it separates is because it does not have hydrogenated fats, which give a lot of these peanut butters and nut butters and products its structure. But we've talked about it in the Tucker Goodrich podcast that these omega-6s or these hydrogenated fats are terrible for you. So that's why you'll notice there's a bit of a difference in this product. And at the same time, also with the texture, we're playing around with it. So the purpose, the texture that you get with the product is geared to be that way. And a lot of people enjoy that.
Yeah. So it does have it. It's not like if you have not purchased the pods before and you're thinking about doing it, just a disclaimer, it's not going to be smooth like Jiffy peanut butter. It's going to have some texture to it. And the best way I can really describe that texture is kind of like licking brownie batter off of that spoon that you're just using to mix up your brownie mix. So it does have this nice mouthfeel to it. I actually have come to really enjoy it.
Yeah, I love it. And I find it a really nice change from the ultra smooth drinkable texture. I don't like that anymore. It just seems off.
It just disappears, which is kind of lame, and you really want to savor and enjoy the product.
And there's something about these pods, and we could put some hypotheses out there, like the elevation in ketones maybe, or the texture, or the nutrient absorption. We don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But we get consistently told from people and anecdotes that the pods have an appetite suppressing effect. So that's really cool, and it is actually our goal, because a lot of people, when they get on a ketogenic diet, they want to lose weight, feel healthier, and so get their appetite in control. So these pods really do help a little bit in the journey, and so that is the main objective. So anything else you got to add?
Yeah, and due to those concerns about summer hitting us and the pod separating and oil separation from the ground up nuts, we implemented a brand new foil lid that is designed to handle oily products. And so far, the prototypes that we totally messed up on purpose. We oiled up the lids and then sealed them and then flipped them upside down, put them under heat and stress and pressure, and there is not one leak right now. I am very impressed. So if USPS or UPS somehow manages to drop kick the pods and break them open, that's their fault.
Oh, yeah, man, those lids are freaking amazing. I pulled them off, and there's like a nice ring protection around it. Those suckers, you have to work to get rid of them. Like, we were testing it, and the center of the cup was easier to break than the side, as in the side lid itself, the sides of the lids itself. So that was really cool. But anyway, we've rambled quite a lot, and let's get back to our show. So we had Michael Arnstein on our podcast, and this is a very different sort of point of view, looking at the fruitarian lifestyle. And this was initially brought up to us by Carrie Doulis, who talked about what's going on with these people who are eating a lot of fruit. Now, this does not pertain to the whole keto and the low-carb movement, But this is how we actually found out about carnivory too.
Yeah, exactly. Like we just looked into the paradoxes and look what's there.
And I also got the answer to the question, what are the best mangoes on Earth?
Oh, awesome. I can't wait to hear it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us bring to you this amazing podcast with Michael Arnstein.
It began, like most people, eating processed foods. I grew up in New Jersey in the 1980s and 90s. Standard lunch meal, most people would agree, is crap then, and it's still crap now. I had problems focusing in school and had cravings for all the typical things that come in wrappers with lots of fancy writing and the things that drive us to become addicted to these foods. I was lucky enough to have some athletic family members in my life, and they got me into running when I was a teenager, and I was just gifted with great oxygen carrying capacity, and I went with it slowly but surely. Tried to clean up my diet. Read typical magazines back in the late 80s, early 90s about how you should try to do this, do that. Low fat was the rage back then, and I just got off the French fries and tried to get off of the animal-based foods, more fruits and vegetables, and slowly but surely, every year I would slowly try to eliminate things that either I read about being supposedly bad for you, or they just didn't jive with me or feel good. Until I got to pretty much I was pretty full vegetarian. I didn't have red meat since I was about 16 years old, 15 or 16 years old, and that's still been the case. I'm 41 now, and then I got into veganism in my 20s. Went in and out of that, having fish and dairy. But I think I haven't had a real slice of pizza since I think I'm 27, real cheese pizza. That was a really, really tough thing to do. That was hard. I think that was harder than anything else. But like most things that you're addicted to, or that you have eating disorders with, if you just stay away from it long enough, it kind of leaves you. I don't miss that food. And that pizza in particular, at least cheese pizza. And when I was 31 years old, I found out about fruitarianism, or a fruit-based diet. I was athletic, trying to reach new personal bests, particularly in the marathon, and I knew that the biggest limiting factor for my performance was body composition. If you look at most Olympic athletes, very high level, performances, the men or the women are very low body fat. It's all about physics. And I knew that if I was going to run a really fast marathon, I had to get as lean as possible. I tried high protein shake diets. Basically, it was a low calorie diet. I have lots of vegetable based protein shakes, and eat vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli. And I lost a lot of weight doing that. I got real skinny, and I actually had major breakthroughs in my athletic career in marathons after I went on a very high protein, low carb diet, and I increased my duration of training a lot. But that didn't work out. I came down with stress fractures, and about the same time, I read about an alternative option of a very high fruit based diet. I tried that, and it clicked with me immediately. I literally went overnight 100% raw, all fruits and vegetables, extremely low fat, and that was more than 10 years ago. And I've diverged from it at times, but I would consider my diet fruitarianism, because I eat the majority of my calories comes from whole fruit in its natural state, and I've had a lot of success on that. I could rattle off some of my improvements, because I think what's important is not to base my improvements against other people, but base my improvements upon what my baselines were before I had switched my diet. For the marathon, for 10 years, I could not run a marathon faster than 2 hours and 45 minutes. And after switching over to a fruitarian diet or fruit-based diet, those two terms are used interchangeably. I run under 2 hours and 30 minutes several times. My best performance was the New York City Marathon in 2 hours and 28 minutes. That's only about 17 minutes faster than my previous best marathon times. But for people that know running, that's an exceptional jump from just kind of a local fast guy to somebody who's, there's not too many people that break 2:30. That's a major commitment. It's really a performance at the peak of my athletic ability, and it never would have happened without eating that way. I'm sure of it. And I got into ultra marathons, and I've run at least 50 ultra marathon races. I've run hundreds of ultra marathon distances in training. I've run many 100-mile races, many wins in nationally competitive events. I think up until recently, I had one of the fastest 100-mile times as an American, 12 hours and 57 minutes. That's about 7 minutes and 45 seconds per mile consecutively for 100 miles. I was never in my wildest dreams thought I could be able to achieve something like that. I've run distances far and beyond 100 miles without rest. I've run 135 miles through Death Valley in the Badwater race in the middle of the summer. I've run Spartathlon in Greece, which is 153 miles. That's without rest. That's 153 miles nonstop. I did all this eating a diet of fruits and vegetables, very low protein, very low fat, and never having issues with getting sick or my body breaking down in a significant way, like stress fractures or anything. So I'm an advocate of this diet. I feel like I've been an experiment because I haven't seen or heard of other people pushing themselves physically on this type of diet. And this experiment's still going, but so far so good. I feel like it really connects with me, and I guess I could keep talking about more of the benefits, but that's kind of the real fast overview.
You know what? You open a can of worms. I could spend a few hours talking to you, but we're here for about an hour. But I'm gonna try to be as concise as possible. So that's pretty kick-ass. But you know what? One of the things that I really liked when I was checking out some of your YouTube videos is your mindset. You have a very solid, positive outlook on life, and I can tell that you've seen life, like the darkest, deepest depths, and you've overcome them. How do you foster that optimism, man?
Well, it's interesting you mention that because there's many benefits that I could talk about eating this way, and one of the things that really focus on a lot is my disposition. Eating raw fruits and vegetables as a diet, it really helps. I don't understand what depression is. Sure, I have times where I feel challenged, but I can remember as a child or as a teenager when I was eating processed foods, I would struggle with deep depressive thoughts, and I could say I'm driven now, and I've been successful in a lot of other areas besides athletics by introducing fruits and vegetables as a diet, and I think that's an overwhelming positive benefit, and I've heard this from several other people that also eat this way.
So what kind of resources were you using during this journey? Where did you go? Are there any forums? Are there any books written here?
Well, there's books out there, but I would say it is a very new type of diet. I'd say in human history, there's never been an opportunity to eat this way up until recently. Even if you go back 30 years ago, the options or year-round options in commercial supermarkets for lots of variety and all year round of fruits and vegetables is greater than it's ever been. 50 years ago in the wintertime, maybe you could find oranges and bananas in the supermarket, and maybe that was about it. So where animal-based foods or high protein diets, that's been something that's been proven and utilized as a diet going back to the Wild West when they just lived on beef jerky. And that's how they broke the rest of the country on that kind of food. So there's not a lot out there in terms of research or diets. The diet's also there's a lot of downsides to the diet. It's extremely expensive. It's really the number one limitation for people to get into this diet. Because you could say, oh, hey, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to go eat bananas. They're cheap. But, try eating bananas every day for 3 weeks. You're going to get sick of them pretty fast. You want diversity, the natural desire. And these things the food is very perishable. It doesn't have shelf life. It's expensive. So that's another reason why I think you get very few people that eat this way, because you need to be almost a millionaire to really eat this way year round certainly in a cold climate. And if you want to eat organic food too. Just to answer your question directly about books, there's a lot of great books out there that advocate maybe not all raw, but mostly raw fruits and vegetables. T. Colin Campbell writes about this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people. They're usually in these discussion forums where they're either being praised or bashed. It's a polar. Diet's very like a religious type of opinion for most people. I try to stay out of the fighting at this point. I'm just doing what I do because it feels right and it works for me. So, that's what I got.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, even for myself, I try to remain as unbiased as possible, but I see that everywhere where diet, like you said, there's a lot of religious sort of component to it. Now my approach usually is for example, if I'm talking to you or anybody else, I'm like, what are they doing that is working? Let's try to figure it out. And how can we improve it further? That's what I try to approach a lot of the, as far as nutrition discussions are concerned. So this was really a fascinating talk that I was looking forward to. But yeah, that's really cool that you're pushing the boundaries forward with food and nutrition. So what kind of, if I were to start a fruitarian diet, what do I even do? Where do I even begin?
Good question. Depending on the type of personality you are, some people will go all in 100%, and that works best for them. Like some people quit smoking solely, or try to incorporate fruits and vegetables on a per meal basis. Depending on what type of person you are, for me, I worked well just going 100%. Other people, I try to tell them, hey, just try to eat fruit for breakfast. Like, that's it. And if that works, just try to eat fruit until lunch, and then try to eat fruit until, the evening time. And eat what tastes good. Eat what's available. Eat what's sustainable, meaning, what you can afford. For some people that eat this way, it's seasonal because they live in a colder climate or throughout the year where they can't get access to fruits or vegetables at a reasonable price. So I know people that eat, maybe mostly fruitarian in the summer months when you can buy watermelon and all types of stone fruits for a very low price. But the more fruit that I eat, the better I feel. And there's been lots of times where I've eaten, absolutely nothing but fruit. No, not eating any vegetables or greens. I ate oranges for 10 days and literally not anything else. It was in the summertime. I was in Italy. And the clementines were unbelievable. And I ran every day. 10th day I ran 30 miles and I felt phenomenal. Almost high. It was bizarre. But everybody's got to try it and see what works for them. I think there's no right or wrong answer. You just got to experiment and don't give up. Even if you're challenged, there's definitely a transitional phase in anything new, whether it's waking up early in the morning or trying a new diet. Just because you might not feel good doesn't mean it's not going to work. Your body's not going to adjust to it. So there is definitely kind of that you got to pass through a detox, as most people call it, where you'll be hungry even though you're full. Some people can't sleep at night. Some people have gastrointestinal distress. There's lots of different problems that people can have. But I think for most people will transition if they stick with it within a few days. If they go overnight, hardcore into this diet. Or like my mother, who's in her 70s, she's really eating a lot of fruit, and she's over, I'd say, years. She's just been increasing her intake of fruits and vegetables. And she lost weight, and she feels good, and she's really become a believer. You keep tinkering and experimenting with things. And I'm still doing it myself. And I think, I try not to get too stuck on it as a religious, observance. Sometimes I don't eat fruit or all raw, and I try to learn from the experience, try to be conscious of what you're eating and how you're eating. And, I think that's a big goal for me, and not try to feel like, I'm cheating on my mantra or my what I'm preaching. I'm trying to live in a way that is healthy for me and people around me and the world that I live in.
Okay. I'm going to be a total ignorant but I'm just trying to learn here. So I've been told that when you go on a vegan diet, vitamin B12 is something that you have to watch out for. I assume you do the same thing. And if yes, what else do people need to watch out for?
I think B12 discussion is important, and also, where do you get your protein? That's everybody wants to know that answer, and I'll cover that, in my opinion, after I talk about B12. I think B12 deficiency, from what I've learned and heard from other people, it's people that are carnivore or vegans or omnivores. There's lots of people that have absorption problems with B12. It's not limited to one diet or species, or I would say species, but culture or ethnic background. I've had B12 deficiencies. I had a severe B12 deficiency, actually, but I was also running 180 miles a week when this happened.
Wow.
And then that was consecutively, and some weeks were over 200 miles. I had more than just a B12 deficiency. I was really, really pushing the limits of the human endurance for a number of years. And I took B12 supplements. I actually took injections for about 3 months. My reading was down in the low 100s, which is extremely low. But I've since, I don't take any supplements other than biotin, and I do that because my hair's thinning as I'm getting older, and I hear biotin's actually done great for keeping my hair really growing well. But anyway, back to B12. I don't take B12 supplements anymore, and I still run quite a bit, and I haven't had any B12 deficiencies. I think that's changed because I eat mostly organic since I live in New York now, but I lived in Hawaii for about a 5-year period when I was having lots of exposure to fresh coconuts and sea and locally grown fruit, and I definitely think that that's a big factor in trying to keep your B12 up. If you have any more questions about that, I can try to answer them. But people should get their blood checked, and if you have a B12 deficiency, you should definitely deal with it. To talk about protein, if we can switch to that.
Oh yeah, that's like the big keto criticism of every single diet. Like every time someone from low carb and keto says, "Oh, protein deficiency." But what's your take on it? I'm really curious.
Yeah, so I've heard people that I'm friends with in this movement. They've said, and I haven't fact checked this, but apparently there's no actual medical term for protein deficiency. Like people know what diabetes is, they know what. If you've got some kind of bacterial infection, but there apparently isn't a diagnosis for deficiency in protein, which I think is true. But to get to the question, where do you get your protein? Well, I like to use simple terms, not complex examples. And you could ask a cow or a horse where they get their protein from. They're very muscular. They're strong. Where do they get their protein from? Well, you could say, well, they eat grass and bugs in the grass, and they seem to be doing really well. Or an ape. Apes are, I guess they eat some protein, flesh-based animal foods, or at least I've heard about that. But they eat mostly greens. So the way it's been explained to me further is that a protein is like a brick building. So you got all these bricks, and you put them all together, and they make a building. And that matter that all those bricks together is a protein. And you can't build a protein without bricks. And the bricks are amino acids. So if you eat an animal-based protein, your body needs to break down that protein into amino acids and then rebuild it as your own muscle. You can't take a piece of muscle from a cow and just stick it on your arm. Your body's got to break it down into amino acids and rebuild it as its own protein as part of your body. So if you don't try to eat, and that process takes a lot of digestive energy. When you eat animal-based foods, your gut acids are a lot stronger to break down that food. It takes longer time to break down that food. When you eat amino acids in fruits and vegetables, your body can assimilate them much faster. I mean, if you eat watermelon, you digest it instantly. It doesn't take any digestive powers to eat most fruits and a lot of vegetables. So you can synthesize and create your own proteins from all these amino acids that are directly absorbable from fresh fruits and vegetables. So I have a very low protein diet, but I have a very high amino acid diet, and I think I've got excellent muscle tone. I've got blogs, and I can prove that I've run way over 200 miles in a week consecutively, and I have no muscle problems. I recover extremely fast eating this way. So that's I don't get protein. I don't want protein. I want amino acids because I want to. Yeah. I want to. You understand? That's my explanation of that.
And also, raising insulin also has a anti-catabolic, anti-muscle breakdown effect, which is really awesome, especially I would imagine, on your diet. And another thing that really fascinated me was something that Carrie Dulles, she's a vegan keto advocate, and she mentioned that on our podcast as well. And she said that, we evolved in various different areas of the world, and you had to eat what was around you. And so we developed these various adaptations to different kinds of foods. And so some certain pathways get unlocked or get higher priority when you switch to a certain dietary protocol. So that would be a really fascinating place to explore. So is there anyone who could potentially be doing research, or anybody who's trying to build some science around it?
Not that I'm really aware of, strictly on a raw fruit-based diet. As I said, there's not a lot of people that can maintain this diet. I think mainly because of the cost, and it's not really something that I think I've tried not to promote this diet very much for the very real reason of people just can't afford it. It's like if I got on YouTube and started telling people they all got to drive Bentleys. If you don't drive a Bentley or a Jaguar, you're just missing out in life. It's like, well, come on, man. Yeah, most people would like to drive a fancy, fun car, but it's like we're talking about perishable foods that have to be flown in from all over the world in most cases, and it's damn expensive. I spend so much money on fruit, but it's the one thing that I spend my last dollar on. I can't get enough of it. So. I don't know about people that are getting studied on this diet because it's not easy to do. I think you could study animals before you could study people, because there's a lot of creatures in nature that subsist mostly on fruit. And when I look at some of those creatures that eat mostly raw fruit, and most animals in nature just eat raw. I think one of the few animals that don't eat raw are humans, and they don't really look the same. Most humans are all different sizes, and they, depending on their diet, they have very different results in their body composition. But in nature, you get animals that eat mostly fruit or raw plants, and they all look the same. You see, like the Nature Channel, you're watching these herds of bison or zebras or wild horses or apes in the jungle, and not some of them are fat and some are skinny. I mean, they all look the same. They all eat the same thing. They all got the same diet, and they're naturally fit, and they usually don't have diseases and stuff like that. And they're eating raw plants, and that's something that really connects with me. So I try to do the same thing. Okay. So animals in nature, I think, are doing pretty well, and I study them with my eyes rather than with a microscope, if you know what I'm saying.
Got it. So how is your daily routine like, and how does it change when you get close to, let's say, running an ultra marathon? How does the diet change?
I just say it doesn't really change. Most fruits are really easy to digest. I generally buy what's in season and what's not going to cost so much. I eat when I'm hungry. you can eat a lot of fruit and not put on weight. That's what I loved about the diet. I was like, wait, I can eat a 20-pound watermelon and my body's not going to figure out how to turn that into fat, and I'm not going to put on extra weight. I was like, wow. So I started eating 20-pound watermelons, like the whole thing, and because I love to eat, food is pleasure. It's great. And who doesn't love cold, fresh watermelon? It's fruit has it's usually 90% water. You don't drink water on this diet. You eat it. And it's the cleanest, it's the cleanest water you could put in your body. It's been filtered from a root system that's usually, dozens of feet underground. And the water's been, filtered through this plant, and it's inside. It's like the ultimate water bottle, and there's no packaging. Usually when you buy fruit, maybe you put it in a plastic bag, but you don't have to open it up with anything but your teeth. It's also fast. There's no prep time with fruit. I love that. I'm kind of lazy, like cooking and stuff. Oh man, I want to spend more time running and just enjoying other things in life. So when you're eating apples, if I see good apples, Honeycrisp, I love them. I'll eat 10 at a time, and I'll eat it as a whole meal. And I don't have to eat anything else with it. I just eat the apple. I don't have to wash it down, or I don't got to, drink more water to rehydrate the food in my stomach. It's a perfect package. Like it's totally perfect. It's sustainable. You can eat 10 pounds of grapes. You could live on grapes for weeks, but if you ate raisins, you'd die in a couple days. So I love that fresh fruit is mostly water, and that's the most important thing. We're like 75% water. And when you put the cleanest water in your body, it makes you feel great. And I love that. I love that just kind of simpleness behind it.
So wait, no water, period?
Oh no, no water. I drink my water in the food that I eat, and I think I go to the bathroom more than probably anybody I know. But in animals in nature, they go to the bathroom all day long. That's what they do. You go to a farm or you see animals out in the pasture, they're just taking a crap and pissing all the time. I know I hear about people that are on paleo diets and they don't go to the bathroom that much. I don't think that's very healthy. I think you should I think it's normal to urinate, 10 times a day. My body's constantly taking an internal shower. I never get sick. I'm always flushing my system out. I never have dry skin. The body odor, I don't have body odor. You just eat fresh fruit and you just don't smell. When you pass gas, it has no odor at all. My eyesight actually improved after, and I don't know if that's related to hydration or whatever, but I feel like my eyesight literally got better when I started eating this way. Bad breath doesn't exist on this diet. I know my wife's tried paleo and keto for a while, and oh man, I said I couldn't kiss her. It was just her keto breath was killing me. So I don't have any of those problems. Deodorant, you don't need it when you eat this way. You smell good because the food you're eating smells good.
One place that I have to really agree with you is the freedom aspect of it. One thing that's very common in the keto, paleo, and even in most dietary circles is they might know all the science behind it, but it just seems to get more complicated and there's more diminishing returns to everything. What I like about your protocol and diet is you're simplifying things. You're like, I'm just going to eat when I feel hungry, and that's it. Just follow Mother Nature and make it happen. So that's really impressive. That's really cool. And I think that's something that my motto in life practically is, if science cannot distill itself into simplicity, what's the point of it? It's just making my life more complicated. So this is, I think, a really solid lifestyle that I think should be looked into as well. So here's a good question. I wanted to ask you, who has the best mangoes in the world?
Well, that's an excellent question. And one day when I hope I can retire from work, my passion is to answer that question by traveling around the world and going to every top location for specifically mangoes, but also other fruits, If you're in New York, it's August, early August, starting in about May, June. Haitian mangoes, phenomenal fruit. Can't recommend it enough. Also, if you're in the tropics, July there's mangoes in New York in July, so they must be growing somewhere, right? So so July in the tropics, the mangoes are incredible. I've heard some of the best mangoes in the world come from India, and that's originally where I think they were found. And then there's thousands of varieties of mangoes. Yeah, one of my favorite fruits, without a doubt. It makes a great dressing. If you blend mango and a Vitamix, it turns super creamy, almost like there's some type of some type of binding agent in it. And it's great, phenomenal dressing, blended mango.
Are there any fruits that you avoid?
I'm not a huge fan of. Let me think about that. That's a tough one. I don't like everything. I don't like fruit that's not ripe. It's like you buy strawberries in the store throughout the year that are commercially grown, and they're crap. I don't want to have anything to do with those things. So if it's ripe and tastes great, I can't say there's any fruits that I really don't like. You stumped me on that one. Can't answer that question.
All right, here's a much more difficult question. Which ones are your favorite fruits?
Well, it goes back to like the strawberries. Like I was saying, I can't stand commercially grown strawberries, but if I'm in California and I'm buying strawberries from an organic farmer on the side of the road, in Northern California that are just picked off the vine, I mean, your eyes just roll in the back of your head. They're so delicious. I mean, they're just unbelievable. So it's high quality ripe is where it's at. So if all things being equal, if we got all the options and they're all the best, I say oranges, Satsuma oranges from California. I connect with that fruit more than anything else. Just incredible. Really enjoy mangoes. A really good mango is amazing. Fresh figs. I've had some figs that are just, I can't describe the taste and how delicious they are. I've had durian is a really good durian, which most people don't know what it is, but it's from Southeast Asia. It's a big spiky fruit. Mangosteen, really like mangosteen, also a very exotic fruit. There's so much variety in fruit. Fruit is the reproductive organ of plants. And there's how many plants in the world? They all produce some type of fruit. That's how they reproduce and grow. And the plant tries to make the fruit as attractive in color and taste, so animals will eat them and spread the seeds. It's the design of the nature as I see it. So there's endless variety of fruits. Whereas with a keto diet, if you're doing animal-based protein, I don't know. How many ways can you season chicken? How many times can you have a hamburger or a steak? It just seems kind of limiting to me. And I love the idea of traveling to different areas for trying different fresh fruits and different seasons. You see different fruits coming into season all the time throughout the year. Like I said, it's the best time and maybe the only time in human history where you've been able to try to eat this diet, this type of way. So,
One question I have is with cravings, for example, when you are going on a totally sweet food diet, I would imagine you would get cravings for salty food. Did they diminish immediately? Did it take some time? How did that go down?
Yeah, when you eat raw fruits and vegetables, you're going to be eliminating a lot of things, salt being one of those. I eat a very, very low salt diet. I thought it was remarkable that when I would run, when I first got on this diet, the sweat would go down my face, and I'd always remember, you get the salt in your eyes and you get the chafing, or you see the white stuff on your clothes from sweat. It doesn't happen. I don't eat foods with salt on them, and my sweat is like water. It doesn't burn my eyes. I don't have chafing. It's remarkable. My body doesn't eliminate the salt because I don't have too much of it. I get enough from the fruits and vegetables that I eat that my body's good. I don't have cravings for salty foods. When I eat something that has salt on it, inorganic salt is basically a rock. When that goes on food, I have it's like a chemical in my mouth. Like I can instantly tell that there is salt on this. And I don't like it. And of course, I used to love salty things. I mean, heck, salt's on everything because it's a preservative. Keeps food on the shelves forever, so people, these companies can make money. But you don't need salt. You don't need supplemental salt. I don't miss salty things. I don't prefer salty things at all. And I think it's healthy not to eat foods that are full of salt. I just don't see the need for it. So that's been a surprising, unusual experience that I've had.
Oh, that's fascinating. What about things like electrolytes and caffeine?
Electrolytes.
Yes.
I think it's important that people that transition into this diet. There's definitely a transition period. I've heard about people like definitely having blood sugar crashes, and their bodies just, I don't know what you want to call it, detox or just transitioning. It definitely takes time for a lot of people, and including me. When I did first go on this diet, I was into ultra running, and I used to take electrolyte tabs because in 100-mile races I would kind of run into problems. And over time, I was taking these things called S caps, basically like a sodium and magnesium, just a supplement in a pill. And it's funny, when I would take them, I would instantly have all this residue coming out of me from sweating. Over time of eating this diet, I've totally eliminated needing to take those things. I've run my best 100-mile times without any type of salt or electrolyte supplementation. But yeah, electrolytes is something to be aware of. My experience has been I don't need to take those things anymore. Caffeine. People listening might say, well, this guy walks on water. I mean, I've definitely deviated. I've been in ultra runs where I'm tired. I don't care what your diet is. If you're mile 80 in a 100-mile race and it's the middle of the night, you're trashed. You're tired. I'll hit the Coca-Cola just like anybody else. Was drowning, looking for a life raft. And that caffeine works. That stuff is like amphetamines. I mean, caffeine is hardcore. And I think if you eat this kind of diet where you're super clean and lean, when you have caffeine, it's like, wow, it's rocket stuff. So, I try to level the playing field, and I've had, green tea in races and things like that. Although it makes me crazy. Like I start to shake and I can't sleep for like 2 days when I have caffeine. So I try to stay away from it. But yeah, man, caffeine is some hardcore stuff.
Yeah, you know what? We've had people who on this podcast before who have been literally pure like carnivores, and they have gone to like various types of extremes on diets. One thing nobody seems to give up is caffeine. So welcome to the club.
Yeah.
So how does a race day fare?
Well, so to talk about some of the things that I struggle with kind of talking about when I seem so like I'm just talking like, oh man, this is the greatest thing ever. In races, I when I was going hardcore into this diet, I wanted to stay 100% raw, and I was eating the dates, the dehydrated dates. Well, I guess, they're all kind of dehydrated, I guess, when they come off the tree at the marketplace. They're definitely not full of water like they are when they're on the tree. But anyway, I was eating tons of dried fruit in these races because it's low weight and it's high calorie, and but it's also high fiber. And in 100-mile races, I was having to go to the bathroom a lot. Plus, you've got to drink a lot more to digest the very high calorie dense dates, and it also dates rot your teeth. You can get a lot of dental problems eating dried fruit. So I in races now, I do have the simple gels. It's made from maltodextrin, there's potato starch, and that's pretty much all I eat in these long distance races is straight up maltodextrin gels, and it works pretty well for me. But I only eat these things during races, and I got off the dates, and I don't recommend dried fruit. Dried fruit is not a fruitarian diet, in my opinion. Dried fruit is like it's the best way to make your dentist rich. You'll just rot your teeth out eating dried fruit. So I don't recommend that.
Speaking of dentists, what does your doctor think? Or do you what's up with that?
I mean, I don't have a doctor, because I don't get sick. I mean, that's really the truth. It's like if I go to the doctor if I had a problem. I mean, most people, they don't really know what to say. They're like, what do you mean you just had bananas for lunch, or you ate a 20-pound watermelon, over the last 3 hours. I mean, they don't know how to identify. They don't know. They're just like, whatever, man. They don't believe me, or, it's just, it's not, there's no money in health. There's money in illness. And I don't think big companies or drug companies or doctors want anybody learning about a diet that's going to put them out of business. I mean, if everybody started eating in a way where nobody got sick or colds or got sick or had diabetes or all kinds of ailments, the economy would collapse. So I don't go to doctors because I just haven't had problems. So yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I feel like I'm kind of an experiment with it, like a few other people in this diet.
Yeah, I think that would be a really fascinating case, and this could really change the paradigm forward. I think some of the people who are in our scientific community, you might even get asked, "Hey, what's up, man? Let's see what's going on," and try to replicate those results. And speaking of replication, what about other athletes? Have you come across other people or anecdotes?
I don't know too many people that in the world of like ultra endurance or marathoning that have tried to exclusively eat raw fruit based diet. I know there's a lot of the best endurance athletes in marathoning eat mostly a vegetarian, mostly a very high carb diet. The Africans are all eating, basically cooked starch diets. It's what's available. It's what's low cost. Like I said, cost is a huge factor. If I had a lot of extra money, I'd love to open up some kind of research, kind of like school or some type of experiment in places where you have these very elite athletes, and go to a place like Kenya or Ethiopia and take 100 of the best runners and give them control sample and feed one group only watermelon and fruits and vegetables all raw. Put them on the same training regimen and see how they compare. But again, it's a cost thing, and the fruit is perishable. It only comes off the tree or the bush or the vine for the specific type of plant, usually one time during the year or for a relatively short period of time. And it's limiting. So it's really the biggest problem.
How can we make this more sustainable or bring the cost down? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I thought about it all the time, and it seems so simple and easy. It's like most foods that people eat need a tremendous amount of preparation, storage, and transportation. But if you go to a fruit orchard like stone fruits, let's say apples. I mean, if you grow grains or vegetables for that matter, you got to plant that stuff every freaking year. It's a lot of work. You grow an apple tree, just walk away, man. That thing's going to be there for 100 years, and every fall it's just going to pump out 1,000 pounds of apples. Maybe you make sure it's got some water. You maybe give it some fertilizer here and there to make it, improve the quality of the fruit if it's growing in soil that's not, really good quality soil. But all you got to do is just plant these freaking fruit trees all over the place, and you got like instant food. Just literally, just pick it. That's it. Got to store it. Got to transport it. It's epic, man. So when I first got into this diet, I was like, I got to go plant fruit trees. And my front yard, I just started planting fruit trees all over my front yard. It was kind of ridiculous. I didn't space them far enough apart from each other. I mean, it was really a mess when they started getting bigger. But I eventually moved to Hawaii. And what I do is for over the last 5 years, I go out for a run in the jungle, and in my pocket, I got seeds. And I just put them under a rock. And man, those things are going to turn into tons of food with nobody taking care of it. It's just nature taking care of it. And it's just, if we just grew more fruit trees instead of, you go around town and they got all these decorative trees. You know why they don't plant apple trees in a lot of towns or orange trees? Is because the fruit just drop on the ground and rot. Because people would rather go to the supermarket and pay $2 a pound for the food instead of growing it in their backyard. But all these produce departments in these supermarkets, especially in more tropical environments, they don't even need these things. Just grow, just plant the freaking tree, man. And then not just you, but 3 generations it's going to be putting off food. It's just so simple, so easy, no prep time. And you know what? It's good for the environment too. You make homes for other animals. They're beautiful to look at, and puts out oxygen into the atmosphere. It absorbs carbon dioxide. I mean, trees are the oldest living life form on planet Earth. They've outlasted the dinosaurs. They're going to outlast us. And what's their secret? They figured it out. We humans, I feel, were designed by land vegetation, mostly trees. These trees figured out how to survive by making food that creatures like us and other animals would want to eat, ingest, and take the seeds and spread them all over the world. And the trees aren't going anywhere. They figured it out. They're the most advanced life form the world's ever seen, as far as I'm concerned. And I feel like they're all laughing at us. They're like, oh, look at these idiot humans. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're all going to be gone.
We had this wonderful podcast with a guy called Thor Hansen. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he wrote a wonderful book about seeds and the evolution of plants, which I thought was really fascinating because there's so many interesting ways these plants have evolved. Like, for example, I didn't know until about 2 months ago that coconuts evolved by basically traveling across the oceans and waters. And when we tried to selectively breed those coconuts, we thinned up their shells, so they lost a lot of their endurance capacity to travel across the ocean. And another one which we discussed in the podcast was how nuts have a high handling time. So it allows, when a nut tree sheds off a lot of its seeds, at least one or two or some of them are going to make it to create another tree. So those complicated structures around those seeds or nuts are to slow down the predator from basically consuming it in time. So this is just beautiful stuff. And yes, humans came in and screwed up everything basically. And so, but it's really a fascinating journey. So, how has this lifestyle impacted your social circle and your social life in general?
Yeah, that's a very good point. This is not a diet for people that are, socially focused. I'm naturally more of an introvert, so it doesn't bother me that much. Although I do want to be with other people that have similar belief systems and similar passions. And it was a real problem for me after about 2 years of eating this way. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go out to eat dinner. I couldn't go to, family events without, kind of feeling like I'm the odd guy out and I'm bringing my own food, and people keep asking me, hey, why don't you try this? Or how come you're not eating this? And I'm like, you know what? I just don't want to eat that food because it just doesn't make me feel good. I'm not questioning you. I'm not trying to convert you. Like, hey, just let me do my thing. And I just got sick of doing that. So I actually created what I thought was just going to be like a one-time kind of meetup. I created an event up in the mountains of upstate New York, and I called it was in Woodstock, New York, which is kind of a hippie kind of place. Although I don't identify as a hippie, I like watching people have a good time, and hippies seem to know how to have fun. But anyway, I rented out a campground in Woodstock, New York, and back then YouTube was just getting started, just in 2010, 2011. And I said, hey, we're going to put on a fruit festival in Woodstock, New York, and it's going to be a week. Everybody who wants to eat fruit just for a week, just come on up. We're just going to go, get 5,000 pounds of watermelon and just go and just hang out and just eat fruit and just do our thing. And it was pretty cool. We had, I put up some money and we had about 180 people come to this thing. And it actually was a lot of fun, man. I mean, I say I'm an introvert, but I really had a good time. So we said, all right, let's put it on again. So the next year we put it on again, and there was almost 400 people that came the next year, and it was just totally out of control, and it was a lot of fun. So now this is our 8th year having the Woodstock Fruit Festival. It's not in Woodstock, New York anymore. It's in upstate New York at a camp called Camp Walden near Lake George. And we got about 650 people. We're sold out, and it's an annual thing. It's a week long, which is a lot, to say to somebody, hey, spend $1,100 up to, even more if you stay indoors in the cabins and come for a whole week and hang out. I mean, that's a lot for people to make a commitment to do. And we've got 650 people coming for a whole week. And, it's been a great experience seeing it kind of grow, and it gives people the chance to eat this diet without judgment, without temptation. and with all, everybody is doing it, and it's effortless. Every year we get probably 50% of the people that come are new and they've never tried really this diet, and they're just giving it a shot, and they leave and they're like, wow, that was really easy. I can just eat fruits, raw fruits and vegetables, and it's not difficult. Well, because you got all the stuff, it's unlimited, and with the low price relatively. So anybody, I feel like anybody can eat this diet and do well. And anyway, so I put this fruit festival on. That's fun, but it is very limiting because of the cost, as I keep coming back to for most people.
Hey, if you ever come to Napa, where we are in California, you're always welcome, and we'll give you whatever fruit we got over here. We do have a lot of wine. Does grapevines work fine? Or, wine grapes, not grape wines. Are they cool?
Well, I don't drink alcohol, but it is technically raw, and it is fruit juice, I guess, or maybe it's not juice anymore. I don't know. My wife, she likes to drink wine, and I like when she drinks wine. She's a lot of fun. She's fun.
No, just the grapes that come from the vine.
Oh, yeah. You mean champagne grapes or something?
Yeah. Dude, I have no clue. I live in Napa, and I'm the worst person when it comes to wine. I don't belong here. I was just saying maybe that's something that could be consumed. Yeah, but it's good that you brought that up, because not all raw fruits and vegetables are created equal. Let me just touch on a quick example, like poison ivy. It's green and it's a plant, but if you eat it, man, it's going to mess you up. You can't eat that like a salad. And grapes, most commercially grown grapes are grown with really bad pesticides. And if somebody wants to try this diet, they're like, oh, I'm going to go eat, mostly grapes for 3 days because they're cheap. Well, man, you could poison yourself, so you got to pay attention to detail. It's not a success in every way if you're doing it wrong. So that's important to think about. You want to try to eat organic, and again, it's very expensive. One thing I want to bring up, and I think this is important. I'm not going to dispute the fact that people have been extremely successful eating paleo diets. There's a lot of ultra runners that have performed at a higher level than I have on a ketogenic diet. It obviously works. The human body can survive and thrive on lots of different types of diets. But the one thing that like Zach Bitter, he's got the American record at the 100-mile distance. This guy can kick my ass on my best day, and he's eating animal proteins and very high fat. So I think to myself, well, crap, I'm a pretty competitive guy. Maybe I got to check this out. Maybe I should start eating, lots and lots of coconut, and I should try to go really high fat. Maybe I'll run even faster, And I actually have really thought about doing it. I haven't done it. Still could try it. I think it could work. I think it'd be limiting. I like coconuts a lot, but I don't know if I like them that much. I don't like if I eat too many avocados, they don't make me feel good, but I seem to be able to eat as much coconut as I want, and I feel okay. But to get back to the point, so I'm not disputing the fact that people can eat this way, live long lives, perform extremely well. But where is the discussion about compassion? I could take drugs. I could take drugs and I could run really fast too. But at some point, there's some kind of line that I don't want to cross. And for me, eating animal-based foods, I guess, listen, we're all going to die. One day I'm going to get old, I hope, and die. Somebody eats me and it sustains them. I guess I was worth. I guess I'm worth something. All these cows, all these chickens, all these fish. If they're born, they got to die. And instead of just going into the ground or just rotting away, they become a food source. So if they have a long, healthy life, I guess it's okay, right? I can see how that kind of makes sense. But again, back to the discussion of compassion. Where is that in the discussion? I think it's pretty hard to argue that most people that are on a keto diet are not buying farm, pasture free range and stuff like that. They're buying cheap, food where there's people that work in these environments, that they're unsafe working conditions. They're working in slaughterhouses or factory farms, and it's destroying our environment. It's indisputable. You hear about these all the waterways are getting polluted, and how much does it cost? How much grain and has to be grown to grow a pound of flesh, and so it's like, hey, I can run faster eating animal-based foods, but is it just about me?
I think that's I don't hear enough and more about is my impact compassionate? Are other creatures suffering needlessly because of my diet? Because I can, be skinny. People on the keto diet they get super shredded, man. I look at the magazines, I see this stuff, I go, wow, I could look like that. But at what cost? And that, I think, is such an important question that people have to think about when they go to sleep at night. And I think about that even when I eat fruit. I moved to Hawaii because I was sick of buying food that was flown in from Thailand, and it's like, man, what am I doing? So I want to try to get closer to the food source. So if you're on a keto diet and you're eating lots of eggs, but you're growing them and you got a hen nest in your backyard and they're eating, I think it's fine. Go for it. If it works for you, great. But if you're promoting ketogenics and people that are listening to you, if you're famous, the people in big cities, they don't have access to those kind of food sources where it's kind of more of a natural life cycle for those animals. They're buying factory farm foods. They're just hurting the environment, and it's just something that people got to be more conscious about. So I think that's a really important point that I want to leave kind of in the closing thoughts from this interview.
And I totally agree with you. Even as a food company ourselves, I mean, when we go and get stuff from pasture raised, which is our strict criteria here, our prices for the products goes way up. But there are people who support this, and at the same time, you know about the Allegory of the Cave by Plato, right? Where you are just, a lot of people in United States or in developed countries or in general, we're just so busy glued to our televisions watching reality shows and these mundane things in these selfish endeavors that give quick gratification and pleasure, while at the same time we fail to see the other kind of side ripple damage that we're causing to other creatures, other animals, and so forth. So that is a huge problem in human nature as a whole. And once again, this is where I strictly agree with you, is that we need to move this boat forward. We need better consumerism. We need better people. And slowly and surely, we can move to a place where suffering is drastically reduced to maybe negligible or none, a perfect utopia. So kudos to you. You've got my support on that matter. So anything else you want to add here?
No, I'm glad I came on the podcast. I appreciate you being very, very kind. I wasn't expecting this. Hopefully the comments or emails that I get won't be any different. They'll be nice and cordial. And, I think we should all just continue to keep our mind and open to, all these different new ideas. And we've got to evolve, right? It's not the strong that shall survive. It's the quickest to adapt.
Yeah.
And we should keep that.
And just to say it out to all the people who are about to raise their pitchforks, they need to realize that I and a lot of people here at Keto Geek, we love chasing paradoxes. We like giving people options. And just like we went on this carnivorous sort of approach, which has helped a lot of people combat some of their autoimmune conditions where there was no treatment, just like that, this is another paradox that is just waiting to be explored. And as human beings, we can continue to try to explore these genres because some of the greatest breakthroughs in human history have happened when we chased paradoxes. Look at Galileo, look at Einstein, look at Newton, all of these great scientists. The common theme is they pushed the limits. They stood up for something and they drove the change. And Mike, this is where I bow down to you and say, you're doing something that nobody else is doing. And it would be an interesting genre to explore. But before we call it, how can people... Do you want to give out your plug information?
Well, I'm not involved in any real commercial enterprises that promote this diet of raw fruits and vegetables. I have a website. I have a YouTube channel, although I don't post many videos anymore. But, there's a lot of information. YouTube is a great resource, and, you try new things. I think one thing I want to point out that's worth talking about is the paleo or ketogenics and fruit-based or raw diets do have similarities and things in common. I think we all agree that, processed grains and processed sugars are super bad stuff. And we're trying to eat simpler and closer to the ground. And so I think, we both have good points, and I'm not totally critical of people that are doing the keto thing. But I'd appreciate if people would try to eat less animal-based keto. And I think that's a new area that's growing, and I'm happy to hear about that. So yeah, just try new things, and you can come to the Woodstock Fruit Festival. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's a good place to try this diet if you want to give it a shot.
Hey, I might come over, just saying. Who knows? Just drop by with all of the people at Keto Geek. But yeah, you're also welcome anytime you're in California to drop by ours and go to have a chat. So yes, thanks. Thank you so much, Mike. You have been quite an information powerhouse. I swear we could have gone on and on for this, but you got things to do. We're sitting here in the middle of the evening just having this chat. So without further ado, thank you. Thank you for listening to the show. You can visit us at ketogeek.com to check out our premium keto-friendly and low-carb food products, including our infamous energy pods, made from the best ingredients we could find in the entire country. We also recommend signing up for our newsletter at ketogeek.com/signup, where you get exclusive discounts, rewards, product announcements, and the latest content we are working on. You also get a 10% discount on your entire order when you sign up. Go to ketogeek.com/signup to join the low-carb playground.